Why is it possible to be materially rich, yet feel spiritually poor? Part 1. This is one of the great paradoxes of our modern world. We live in an age of unprecedented abundance. We have access to comforts, technologies, and opportunities that would have been unimaginable to our ancestors. By almost any historical measure, many of us are living like kings. We have the house, the career, the online subscriptions, the vacations we post on social media. We've checked all the boxes that society told us would lead to happiness. And yet, there's a quiet hum of dissatisfaction, isn't there? A feeling that something is missing. It's the Sunday evening dread that has nothing to do with the work week. It's the hollow feeling after a major purchase. It's the endless scroll through other people's perfect lives that somehow leaves us feeling more empty. We are running faster and faster on a treadmill, only to find ourselves in the exact same spot, just more out of breath. This feeling isn't a personal failure. It's not a sign that you're ungrateful or that there's something wrong with you. It is, in fact, one of the most fundamental experiences of the human condition, an experience that was diagnosed with breathtaking clarity 2,600 years ago. This video series is a journey into that diagnosis. We are going to explore the Buddhist perspective on this modern ailment, this feeling of being full yet starved. We won't be talking about renouncing the world or living in a cave. We'll be talking about finding a way out of this paradox, a way to discover a genuine, unshakable richness that has nothing to do with your bank account, right in the middle of your modern life. To understand this feeling of spiritual poverty, we first need to understand the first noble truth of Buddhism, which centers on a concept called dukkha. This Pali word is often translated as suffering, but that can be misleading. For many of us living comfortable lives, suffering feels too strong. A more accurate translation might be pervasive dissatisfaction, a fundamental sense of unease, or the itch you can't quite scratch. Dukkha is that low-grade, persistent feeling that things are not quite right, that fulfillment is always just around the corner, but never quite here. It is the very engine of that feeling of being spiritually poor. So, what causes this dissatisfaction? The Buddha identified a primary culprit, tanha. This word translates to thirst, craving, or desire. It's a relentless, driving hunger. And it's not just one kind of hunger. Buddhist psychology breaks it down into 3 distinct types. First, there's the thirst for sense pleasures, the desire for delicious food, beautiful sights, new technology, physical intimacy, the next hit of dopamine. Second, there's the thirst for existence or becoming, the craving to be someone, to achieve the next promotion, to get more followers, to be seen as successful, smart, or attractive. This is the hunger of the ego. Third, and perhaps most subtly, there's the thirst for non-existence, the craving to escape, to numb out, to avoid discomfort through distraction, alcohol, or endless entertainment. Do these 3 thirsts sound familiar? They are the very foundation of our modern consumer economy. Every advertisement, every social media feed, every career ladder is expertly designed to stimulate tanha. You're told you are lacking something, a better car, a better body, a better life, and that this product or this achievement is the cure. We are living in a civilization that has perfected the art of making us thirsty. A powerful metaphor from Buddhist cosmology for this state is the hungry ghost, or preta. These are beings depicted with tiny mouths and throats, but huge, distended bellies. They can never eat or drink enough to feel full. No matter how much they consume, they remain perpetually starved and tormented by their own insatiable hunger. This is a perfect image for the modern condition of being materially rich and spiritually poor. We are constantly consuming products, experiences, validation, but our tiny throats can't deliver it to our vast, empty stomachs fast enough. We are a society of hungry ghosts, trying to quench an infinite thirst with finite things. From this, we can deduce why material wealth fails to deliver lasting happiness. We are trying to solve an internal problem with an external solution. We are trying to fill a spiritual void with material objects, which is like trying to quench a deep thirst by drinking salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. This phenomenon has been identified by modern psychologists as the hedonic treadmill. You work hard, you get the raise, you buy the new car, you feel a spike of happiness. But very quickly, that becomes your new normal. The thrill fades, and soon you find yourself craving the next thing, a bigger house, a more exotic vacation. Your baseline of happiness hasn't actually changed. Only your desires have escalated. This is the very definition of dukkha driven by tanha. It's a game you can never win. Now, a common misconception must be addressed. Many people think that Buddhism is anti-wealth, that it advocates for poverty and austerity. This is a misunderstanding. The Buddha gave advice to kings, merchants, and wealthy householders. The problem is not money itself. The problem is our relationship to it. It is the clinging, the craving, the belief that these external things can solve our deepest internal unease. The Zen master Shunryu Suzuki once said, "The problem is not that you have a big car. The problem is that the big car has you." When our possessions possess us, when our identity becomes fused with our net worth, we are trapped on that treadmill. So what does this mean for you, sitting here, perhaps in a comfortable home with a stable job, but feeling that familiar, nagging emptiness? First, it means you can let go of the self-blame. This feeling is not your fault. It is a deeply ingrained, conditioned response to the world we live in, a world that constantly stokes the flames of tanha. You are not broken. You are simply a human being with a human mind, responding as you've been taught to respond. This understanding allows us to begin a new practice. It's a practice of gentle inquiry. The next time you feel that pull, that craving, the urge to buy something you don't need, the pang of envy seeing someone else's success, the desire to just zone out and binge watch a series for hours, just pause. Don't act on it, but don't suppress it either. Simply ask yourself with genuine curiosity, what is this feeling really? What is the underlying hunger I am trying to feed right now? Am I trying to soothe a feeling of boredom, of loneliness, of inadequacy? You don't need to have a perfect answer. The act of pausing and asking is the practice itself. You're shining a light of awareness on the automatic process of the hungry ghost. You're creating a small space between the impulse and the action. And in that space lies the beginning of a different kind of freedom, a different kind of wealth. So, returning to our initial question, how can one be materially rich and spiritually poor? As we've seen, it's because the human condition is defined by a fundamental dissatisfaction, dukkha, which is driven by a relentless thirst, tanha. Our modern world has built an entire system around amplifying this thirst, turning us into hungry ghosts who can never be satisfied by what we consume. But the crucial insight is that this is a winnable game, just not on the terms we've been given. We cannot win by getting more. We can only win by changing the nature of the game itself. And to do that, we must first understand the player. Who is this I that feels so hungry? Who is this me that feels so poor? Understanding the true nature of the self is the next step on our journey, and it holds the key to moving from the poverty of grasping to the richness of letting go. That is what we will explore in part 2. What are your thoughts on the hungry ghost in modern life? Where do you feel it most? Please share your reflections in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to press like and subscribe to Buddhism Wisdom, Spirituality, to continue this journey with us. Part 2. In our last part, we diagnosed the central paradox of modern life, the condition of being materially rich, yet spiritually poor. We identified the cause as dukkha, a deep-seated dissatisfaction, which is fueled by tanha, a relentless thirst for more. We are like hungry ghosts, constantly consuming, but never feeling full. This leaves us with a profound question. Who exactly is this hungry ghost? Who is this I that feels so fundamentally lacking, that is always striving, comparing and acquiring, yet never finds lasting peace? To find the way out, we must first investigate the one who believes they are trapped. This investigation leads us directly to the heart of Buddhist philosophy, the radical and liberating teaching of anatta, or not-self. To understand the Buddhist way out, we first need to understand the self that feels impoverished. From a Buddhist perspective, what we typically call ourself isn't a solid, unchanging soul or entity. Instead, it operates more like a corporation. Let's call it Me Incorporated. The CEO of Me Inc. is our ego, and its primary business is self-preservation and expansion. Its mission is to build a strong, successful, and enduring brand identity. How does it do this? It acquires assets. These assets aren't just material things like a house or a car. They are also immaterial, a prestigious job title, a reputation for being intelligent, a certain physical appearance, a collection of unique experiences, a set of strong opinions. Me Inc. is in constant competition with other corporations. It scrolls through social media, which is essentially the corporate quarterly report for everyone else, and it compares its own assets. Her house is bigger than mine. His career is more successful. Their vacation looks more exciting. Each comparison that comes up short feels like a drop in stock value, a threat to the company's existence. This triggers a frantic need to acquire more, to improve the brand, to bolster the self. The new car isn't just a mode of transportation. It's a press release announcing the success of Me Inc. The luxury watch isn't just for telling time. It's a trophy in the corporate display case. The teaching of anatta, or not-self, is a radical audit of this corporation. It invites us to look closely at Me Inc. and ask, is there actually a permanent, solid CEO in the building? Or is the corporation just a bundle of constantly changing processes? Buddhism suggests the latter. It deconstructs our experience into 5 categories known as the 5 skandhas, or aggregates. These are form, our physical body; feeling, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral sensations; perception, our labels and recognitions; mental formations, our thoughts, biases, and habits; and consciousness, the basic awareness of the other 4. The profound insight here is that we mistake this bundle of processes for a solid, independent self. We say, my body, my feelings, my thoughts, assuming there is a separate I who owns them. But Buddhism asks us to look closer. Your body is changing moment by moment. Your feelings are fleeting. Your thoughts are an endless, chaotic stream. Where is the fixed, permanent you in all of this? The teaching of anatta suggests that the self, me Inc., is not a solid entity, but an illusion created by the combination of these 5 changing processes. It's like a rainbow. A rainbow is real. You can see it, but it's not a solid thing you can go and grab. It's a phenomenon that arises from the interplay of light and water droplets. Similarly, the self is a phenomenon that arises from the interplay of body, feelings, thoughts, and consciousness. This leads us to a crucial conclusion about spiritual poverty. The reason we feel perpetually poor, no matter how much we accumulate, is because we are trying to feed an illusion. We are pouring all our energy and resources into decorating the headquarters of Me Inc., hoping that if we make it impressive enough, it will feel solid and real. But we're trying to fill a phantom. It's an impossible task. The hungry ghost is hungry because it isn't real. It's a ghost. The emptiness it feels is its very nature. This is why external solutions always fail. You cannot solve a problem of mistaken identity with a material possession. It's like trying to fix a software bug by buying a new monitor. You're addressing the wrong level of the problem. As the 13th century Zen master Dogen wrote, "To study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be actualized by myriad things." This means that true liberation, true spiritual wealth, doesn't come from building up the self, but from seeing through its illusory nature. Of course, a major misconception arises here. The idea of not self can sound terrifying. It can sound like annihilation or nihilism. If I'm not a self, do I not exist? Does nothing matter? This is a fundamental misunderstanding. Anatta doesn't mean you don't exist. It means you don't exist as a separate, isolated, independent entity. You're not a rock. You are a river. A river is not a fixed thing, but a dynamic, interconnected process, constantly receiving and giving and only existing in relationship with its banks, the rain, and the sea. Forgetting the self doesn't mean you disappear. It means you realize you are interconnected with everything. And in that realization of interconnectedness, the desperate, competitive, and lonely project of Me Inc. can finally relax. So, what does this mean for you when you feel that pang of envy or that desperate need to impress someone? It means you can learn to recognize this feeling, not as a deep truth about your inadequacy, but as the frantic activity of Me Inc., trying to prove its own existence. You can smile at it with a little wisdom and say, "Ah, there's the CEO again, worried about the stock price." This leads us to a contemplative practice. It's a practice of seeing the attachment. Choose a possession that you value, something that is part of your identity. It could be your car, your watch, a piece of clothing, or even your university degree. Sit with it for a moment. Hold it or look at it. Now, gently ask yourself these questions. What part of me is attached to this? What does this object say about who I am? If this were gone tomorrow, what would I fear is lost about me? The goal here isn't to cultivate indifference or to get rid of the object. The goal is to see the invisible threads of attachment that run between your sense of self and the things of the world. By seeing these threads, you begin to loosen their power. You begin to realize that your true worth is not dependent on these external props. You are the awareness that is observing the object and the feeling of attachment, and that awareness is already whole, complete, and untouched by gain or loss. In our exploration, we've seen that the hungry ghost of spiritual poverty is the fictional corporation of me incorporated, a self that feels separate, lacking, and in constant competition. It desperately tries to fill its own perceived emptiness with material and social assets. The profound wisdom of anatta, or not-self, reveals that we are not a separate corporation, but an interconnected process. Our attempt to feed this phantom self is the very source of our frustration. The inspiring takeaway is this: the emptiness you feel isn't a void that needs to be filled. It's an opening. It's the space where true connection and authentic richness can arise once we stop trying to cram it full of things. So, if the problem is a mistaken identity, what is the solution? The solution is to cultivate a new way of being, a new source of nourishment. How do we actively practice this? How do we find a wealth that comes not from getting, but from giving and connecting? That is the path we will walk in our final part, the art of cultivating true spiritual abundance. What possession do you feel most attached to, and what does it say about your brand? Be honest in the comments below. Your insight could help others see their own attachments more clearly. If this perspective has given you something to think about, please show your support by liking this video and subscribing to Buddhism Wisdom, Spirituality. We'll see you in part 3. Part 3. Welcome back. In our journey so far, we have unmasked the great paradox of our time, how we can be so materially rich, yet feel so spiritually poor. In part 1, we identified the problem as dukkha, a deep dissatisfaction fueled by the insatiable thirst of tanha. In part 2, we went deeper and found the culprit, the illusion of a separate self, a me incorporated, that tries to fill its own ghostly emptiness with external things. We now arrive at the most vital stage of our journey, the way out. If acquiring things for a fictional self is the path to poverty, what is the path to true wealth? If we are to stop feeding the hungry ghost, what is the real food that nourishes the human spirit? The Buddhist tradition offers a clear and practical answer. It is a path that shifts our entire orientation from getting to giving, from accumulating to connecting, from consumption to contribution. This isn't about rejecting the material world, but about finding our deepest fulfillment within it. This path is a radical redefinition of what it means to be wealthy. The framework for this new way of life is the Buddha's Noble Eightfold Path, a holistic guide to human flourishing. We won't cover all 8 parts, but we will focus on 3 practices that directly counteract the hungry ghost mindset and cultivate genuine spiritual abundance. These are dana, generosity, mudita, sympathetic joy, and sama ajiva, right livelihood. Let's start with dana, or generosity. The habit of the hungry ghost of me Inc. is to grasp, accumulate, and hoard. Its symbolic gesture is the clenched fist. Dana is the practice of intentionally doing the opposite. Its gesture is the open hand. This doesn't just mean giving money. You can be generous with your time, your attention, your knowledge, a kind word, or a listening ear. Every act of generosity, no matter how small, is a direct rebellion against the tyranny of the ego. It loosens the ego's grip and asserts a deeper truth, that we have enough, that we are enough to be able to give. Giving is not a loss. It is the realization of abundance. Next is mudita, or sympathetic joy. This is one of the most powerful and challenging practices for the modern mind. The default reaction of me Inc. when seeing another success is envy or comparison. Envy is a state of painful lack. Mudita is the practice of actively cultivating joy in the happiness and success of others. When a colleague gets a promotion, when a friend buys a beautiful home, when you see a couple in love, the practice is to consciously feel happy for them. This is a revolutionary act. It transforms a world of competitors into a world of potential sources of joy. Your happiness is no longer limited to your own small successes. You can tap into an infinite reservoir of joy by celebrating the good fortune of everyone you meet. It is the ultimate antidote to the poison of envy. Finally, there is sama ajiva, or right livelihood. This addresses the 40+ hours a week we spend working. For many, work is simply a means to an end, a paycheck to fund the consumption of me Inc. Right livelihood reframes work as a path of purpose and service. It asks us to earn a living in a way that, at a minimum, does no harm to others, and ideally, contributes to their well-being. The crucial question shifts from what can I get to what can I give? It's not necessarily about quitting your corporate job to join a nonprofit, though it could be. It's about bringing a new intention to the job you have. How can you be more helpful to your colleagues? How can you provide more genuine value to your clients? How can your work, in some small way, leave the world a little better than you found it? This transforms work from a grind into a meaningful practice. These concepts are beautiful, but they only come to life through practice. So let's turn them into concrete actions you can take, starting today, to cultivate this inner wealth. First, practice micro-generosity dana. Your task this week is to find one small way to be generous each day. It doesn't have to be monetary. Let someone go ahead of you in traffic. Give a genuine, specific compliment to a coworker. Put your phone away and give your full, undivided attention to a loved one for 10 minutes. Buy a coffee for the person behind you in line. At the end of the day, notice how the act of opening your hand instead of clenching it actually felt. Second, train your joy muscle, mudita. This one requires conscious effort. The next time you are on social media and you see a post that triggers that familiar pang of envy, a vacation, an engagement, a career achievement, pause. Take a breath. Recognize the envy as the voice of me Inc. Then, Deliberately say in your mind, or even whisper aloud, "I'm happy for you. May your happiness and success continue." It might feel fake at first. That's okay. You are carving a new neural pathway. You're training your mind, just like you would train a muscle at the gym. Third, find your contribution. Right livelihood. You don't need to change your job to start this practice. At the end of each workday for the next week, take 2 minutes to reflect on this question. Beyond the paycheck, what was my contribution today? Did I help a colleague solve a problem? Did I make a customer's day a little easier? Did I create something of genuine quality? This simple reflection begins to shift your focus from what you get to what you give, finding meaning right where you are. So, we return to the great paradox: materially rich, spiritually poor. We've seen that the cause is a case of mistaken identity, believing ourselves to be a separate, needy self in a world of competition. We've seen that the way out is not to reject the world, but to change our entire relationship to it. The way out is to discover that true wealth is not what you have in your bank account, but what you have to give. It is the richness of an open hand, a joyful heart, and a purposeful life. The ultimate takeaway from this ancient wisdom is this: stop trying to fill a hole. There is no hole. The emptiness you felt was not a lack of things, but a lack of connection. And you can begin to cultivate that connection right now. The greatest wealth is not found in a house full of possessions, but in a heart full of generosity, joy for others, and a sense of purpose. That is a wealth that no one can ever take from you. That is the way out and the way in to a truly rich life. How will you practice generosity or sympathetic joy this week? Share one small commitment in the comments below to make it real for yourself and to inspire others. If this journey has been meaningful for you, please press the like button and subscribe to Buddhism Wisdom, spirituality for more explorations into a wiser, more fulfilling way of life. Thank you for your time and your attention. Be well.